Alright, welcome back to this new inspirational video. Today we're gonna go on with chapter 3 of the book The Science of Getting Rich, and it's titled, Is Opportunity Monopolized? And before I actually start, I wanted to point out that there are a few paragraphs that I will skip entirely because he was talking about stuff like the railway system and the aerial transportation, stuff that 100 years ago was still in its infancy, as he said himself. But in this day and age it's already built into a large industry, so it doesn't really matter in our day and age what he actually wrote about it. So that's why I skip certain parts, but I'll keep the main parts intact that are very important for us to grasp. Now he started the chapter out by saying, "No man is kept poor because opportunity has been taken away from him, because other people have monopolized the wealth and have put a fence around it. You may be shut off from engaging in business in certain lines, but there are other channels open to you. It is quite true that if you are a workman in the employ of the steel trust, you have very little chance of becoming the owner of the plant in which you work. But it is also true that if you will commence to act in a certain way, you can soon leave the employ of the steel trust. You can buy a farm of from 10 to 40 acres and engage in a business as a producer of foodstuffs. There is great opportunity at this time, when he wrote it, for men who will live upon small tracts of land and cultivate the same intensively. Such men will certainly get rich. You may say that it is impossible for you to get the land, but I'm going to prove to you that it is not impossible, and that you can certainly get a farm if you will go to work in a certain way. At different periods, the tide of opportunity sets in different directions, according to the needs of the whole and the particular stage of social evolution which has been reached. There is an abundance of opportunity for the man who will go with the tide instead of trying to swim against it. So the factory workers, either as individuals or as a class, are not deprived of opportunity. The workers are not being kept down by their masters. They are not being ground by the trusts and combinations of capital. As a class, they are where they are because they do not do things in a certain way. The working class may become the master class whenever they begin to do things in a certain way. The law of wealth is the same for them as it is for all others. This they must learn, and they will remain where they are as long as they continue to do as they do. The individual worker, meaning you and me, however, is not held down by the ignorance or the mental slothfulness of his class. We can follow the tide of opportunity to riches, and this book will teach us how. No one is kept in poverty by a shortness in the supply of riches. There is more than enough for all. A palace as large as the Capitol at Washington might be built for every family on earth, from the building material in the United States alone. And under intensive cultivation, this country would produce wool, cotton, linen and silk, enough to clothe each person in the world, finer than Solomon was arrayed in all his glory, together with food enough to feed them all luxuriously. The visible supply is practically inexhaustible, and the invisible supply really is inexhaustible. Everything you see on earth is made from one original substance out of which all things proceed. New forms are constantly being made and older ones are dissolving, but all are shapes assumed by one thing. Now, let me stop with the narration for a bit concerning the manuscript, because I wanted to share with you 2 points to offer you some additional explanations about what we just shared. First, I want you to know that anybody can imagine their way to a better life. Therefore, we are free and not limited. People have to learn about this. This is the reason why opportunity is not monopolized, because you can still imagine yourself to a better life, no matter where you currently stand physically. The second point I wanted to share with you is that life is not about competition. It's about doing and sharing your passions in your own unique way. If you start to consider this and take it serious, you will realize that you're in the position to create your own opportunities for yourself. So again, it's not monopolized. You're not being held back because of society as a whole. We're being held back because of the way we're using our minds. As Wallace said, the invisible supply really is inexhaustible. It's important to understand that when we talk about the invisible supply, we might as well say we are talking about the realms of imagination. You have an imagination, I have one, everybody has one, Are we using our imagination? Because the imagination can give you all sorts of ideas through which you can build wealth and opportunities for yourself. That is the invisible supply. Your imagination exists in an invisible realm of consciousness. And as he said as well, everything you see on earth is made from one original substance, out of which all things proceed. This ties beautifully into what Neville Goddard would say decades later by saying, name one thing that is created by man that wasn't first imagined. You see, everything is a reflection of imagination. Imagination is that substance from which all things proceed. And then new forms are constantly being made. We're constantly creating new things, better things for ourselves and the world. And older ones that were once good for us, we outgrow them, are dissolving. But they are all still shapes assumed by one thing. What is that one thing? The formless substance, the realms of imagination. So if you really grasp this, you realize that all you have to start doing is exercise your imagination so you can start creating wonderful opportunities for yourself through which you can build wealth and a wealthy lifestyle. So we're not talking about just getting rich financially. You're going to get rich in the sense that you're going to live a rich and fulfilled life in all areas that you're involved in as you're on planet Earth. It's absolutely incredible. Now let's go on with Wallace's words. There's no limit to the supply of formless stuff or original substance. The universe is made out of it, but it was not all used in making the universe. The spaces in, through, and between the forms of the visible universe are permeated and filled with the original substance, with the formless stuff, with the raw material of all things. 10,000 times as much as has been made might still be made, and even then we should not have exhausted the supply of universal raw material. Again, I made a note in the book itself that I want to share with you because it's very important. I said there is no limit to the ideas that can make you rich, to the mind. So let it really sink in. There are no limits to the ideas that can make you rich through the mind. So in other words, if you use your imagination by building visions of fulfilled desires, of activities that you would love to be involved in, of activities of how you would love to make a living, well, there you go. You have proved that there's no limit to the ideas that you will come up with in order to get rich. That's what we're talking about here when we say, or when Wallace said, there's no limit to the supply of formless stuff. There's no limit to your imagination. That is the formless stuff that you're going to have to work with. Wallace went on to say, no man, therefore, is poor because nature is poor, or because there's not enough to go around. Nature is an inexhaustible storehouse of riches. The supply will never run short. Original substance is alive with creative energy and is constantly producing more forms. When the supply of building material is exhausted, more will be produced. When the soil is exhausted so that foodstuffs and materials for clothing will no longer grow upon it, it will be renewed, or more soil will be made. When all the gold and silver has been dug from the earth, if man is still in such a stage of development that he needs gold and silver, more will be produced from the formless. The formless stuff responds to the needs of man. It will not let him be without any good thing. We can change that sentence around and say, your imagination responds to the needs you have. It will not let you be without any good thing. The more you study this book, the more it will make sense for you. After all, it's all about creating and giving that increases your opportunities. Now, this is true of man collectively. The race as a whole is always abundantly rich. And if individuals are poor, it is because they do not follow the certain way of doing things which makes the individual man rich. The formless stuff is intelligent, it is stuff which thinks, it is alive, and it is always impelled toward more life. It is the natural and inherent impulse of life to seek to live more. It is the nature of intelligence to enlarge itself, and of consciousness to seek to extend its boundaries and find fuller expression. The universe of forms has been made by formless living substance, throwing itself into form in order to express itself more fully. The universe is a great living presence, always moving inherently toward more life and fuller functioning. Nature is formed for the advancement of life. Its impelling motive is the increase of life. For this cause, everything which can possibly minister to life is bountifully provided. There can be no lack unless God is to contradict himself and nullify his own works. You are not kept poor by lack in the supply of riches. It is a fact which I shall demonstrate a little farther on, that even the resources of the formless supply are at the command of the man or woman who will act and think in a certain way. And this is very true. This is the end of chapter 3, but this is very, very true. The resources are at the command of the man or woman who will act and think in a certain way. So those resources of the formless supply. Well, in the next chapter, it's going to get really awesome, because we're going to get laser focused in what we should be doing as an individual in order to make use of the formless substance. But again, a reminder to you is that it is your imagination. You see, the term formless supply, formless substance might still be way too vague for most people, but if we say it's your imagination, and if we analyze carefully how imagination can turn into concrete reality, can create results in our lives, then we have a clear idea of what this formless supply really is. Because your imagination is the formless substance through which you alter and improve your physical reality. So again, a reminder would be that we need to build a vision of what we want, start thinking from that vision, and then start feeling gratitude and joy for this great vision that is brought to us, this great desire that was given to us by the universe to improve our lives. And then we want to act according to what the vision dictates, because the vision exists in the formless substance. This is how you start working together with the universe. Now, another final point I wanted to share with you before we end this video is that the only reason we feel poor is because we are allowing physical money in the bank to dictate if we are rich or not. But the mind is never poor, for the imaginative realms of limitless abundance don't know such petty limitations. In the next chapter, we will reveal to you how to stop this absurdity, because our world is operating in the reverse order. We let physical things control the mind. But this book is teaching us we should let our minds control our lives. We should start working with our imagination, the formless substance, in order to improve our physical reality. That is the secret of creation. That is the power that you hold inside. And that's beautiful, to realize that the power you need in order to make your life rich and fulfilling, it's all inside of your consciousness, right where you are. Right here, right now. It's right there where you are, because you are the power that was given by God, the power that can cause things to be created. You hold the power of creation. And that's what you're going to learn throughout the rest of these chapters in general. If you're new to this channel, consider subscribing to receive inspirational videos on a regular basis. And with that being said, dear viewer, never forget that we are the dreamers.